Alright guys, today we're going to be delidding two CPUs here for my Mac Pro 4,1 because the 4,1 requires the CPUs to be delidded for you to use them. I just bought these two 5675s and we're going to delid them and put them in my 4,1. Before we do that, a couple things you need to have. We're going to be doing the razor blade and heat method. So what you need to have for that is at least 4 razor blades per CPU. Now the reason why I say per, because these razor blades are going to get hot. So once you get done with the first CPU, you don't want to use this because you're going to have to wait a while for the blades to cool down. So just have 4 sets. You can buy these in boxes of like 12 or whatever, so that's no big deal. Next thing you're going to need is like a roll of tape or something that you can actually put these in, because you're going to need this to heat the CPU up on, or the CPU on, and then you're going to need a heat gun. We're going to use this or any type of heat source that you can have. I mean, preferably if you have a SMC workstation, that's what I'm using. That's probably preferred, so go ahead and use that instead. So that's what we're going to be using on this particular video. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. First thing we're going to do is we got to cut around the edges here, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut around the edges, but we're only going to go so deep. You don't want to go too deep because there are some capacitors on the inside of the lid here that you don't want to actually hit. So you got to be very careful, be very slow and methodical about that. So we're going to take our time doing this and get new razor blades. Try not to use old ones, because if they're dull, it's not going to work as good. So, but that's basically what I recommend. So what you're going to do is you're going to start. I start on the corner here, and you just kind of wiggle it like that until you get about that far in. You don't want to go too much further in. And then you I just kind of do that to all the way around it. And you want to, basically what you're doing is you're breaking that rubber seal, but you don't want to go in too deep. Okay? So that's pretty much all you want to do. Don't hit or scrape the little contacts here, because you don't want to mess up those either. So as long as you keep it steady right here, it should work fine. Okay, see, that's about as deep as you really want to go on these. Basically, the rule of thumb is where the top of the lip of this is. Don't go any deeper than that. That's pretty much as far as you want to go. So let's go ahead and get the rest of these done, and I'll probably fast forward this when we get ready to go to post. Alright, now once you got pretty much all of it cut around here, you're going to take 4 razor blades, okay? And the way you're going to do this is you're going to stick one here, and you want to push them in far enough to be basically in just deep enough to be able to be popped out. Then stick one on the opposite side the same exact way. Okay, you want to basically put the razor blade underneath and make sure it is underneath and cutting the rubber or the glue that's holding down. Now the next one you're going to put kind of on top of these razor blades, but you're going to stick it in the same way, except it's going to be overlapping. So basically what this is doing is putting pressure on this lid, okay? Now it's not going to pop off because there's actually solder underneath the lid here, holding this the lid onto the CPU. That's what's actually it's basically that's what the heat dissipation is it's solder on there. It's really soft solder. It's really easy to get off, and we're going to show you how to clean it. Now that's what you're going to look like when you get done here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tape, and you're going to place this like so, so that you have the CPU like this. Now we're going to take our heat station, and I'm going to, let's see, what I want to turn it up to. I think I got, we're going to set it to about 400 and go from there. All right, so when you pick it up, the heat gun automatically comes on. Now I use a low air pressure on it, so it doesn't, I don't like to have it so it doesn't spread out enough. But you want to basically be right in the middle of the die right here. You don't want to be too hot, because one of the problems is that there's a lot of components on the bottom, a lot of capacitors, and you don't want those to fall off and get too hot. Now what we're going to do is we're going to heat this up until you hear a pop. When you hear that pop, take the heat off, because that means that the lid is actually, you're basically delid it, and the CPU will actually fall down into the onto the mat here. So that's how we're going to do this. And there's the pop. Turn that off. And you heard that pop, and basically if you do that, the lid will come off. And there's the lid right there. And there you go. That is how you do that. Now those razor blades are really hot, so be careful with them. So now, let me get my needle nose pliers. But you can see on the back of the lid here, there is solder, and that's what you're going to hear pop when you do that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to let this CPU, this one, cool down. All right, so as soon as it cools down, then we can basically go and clean off all that solder. But what we're going to do is we're going to do the second CPU next here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. I will start it back up again when we start cleaning up the CPU. All right, guys, I got both CPUs done. This is the second one. This is the first one. And you can see the solder all over the CPU die. Now we have to clean that off first before we actually use these. Also, you can take the glue off around it if you want. I did it on my last ones. It's not going to hurt anything to keep it on there or not. So this time I'm just going to leave it on there and make it. You take a chance of cutting through the substrate, and I don't want to do that. So we're going to take a razor blade, and we're basically going to scrape the solder off. And I don't know if you can see that, but it is scraping off rather easily. I mean, that's how soft this stuff is. This is very, very soft solder, and it has to be, because you don't want it to be too hot or get the CPU too hot when they're actually putting the lid on these things. So I'm barely using any force to actually get this stuff off. And there you go. There's the first little piece of solder. I mean, it looks like a little solder tin on there. So, and you can see that some of it's off, but we're going to continue scraping until you start seeing it very shiny. The die is very shiny. Now, some people recommend using a polishing cloth. I don't see the point in that, to be honest with you, because you're just basically scraping off some of the CPU die, and I don't want to do that. Plus, the fact is, I'm going to be using Arctic Silver paste on it anyways to actually fill in all the gaps anyways. But as long as I get the solder all scraped off And like I said, take your time doing this. Don't rush this. And the reason why I say that, because you don't want to screw up the die any. Always do it flat and make sure you get, you know, all the stuff off of there. So the die is actually looking pretty good. This one's actually being easier than the last one I did. I think it's because this is my third and fourth delidding I've done. Actually, the fourth and fifth, or no, third and fourth and fifth actually, because I did a test CPU the first time I ever did it. It was an old Intel i7. Actually, it was an i5 that I had that I wasn't going to use in anything ever again. So I went ahead and did the test on it to make sure I could do it properly on that before I actually did it on the real CPU. And when I did do it, it worked out really well. So see how I'm just basically just scraping off. I mean, it's going to come off a little at a time, but it's going to look really good after this. The razor blade really works well if you have it really sharp. So this is almost done. I mean, it's almost to my liking. I mean, you can start seeing the actual die, and then we're going to take some isopropyl and we're going to clean up the die afterwards a little bit. But you want to try to get this as smooth as possible. That's the main goal right there, is to get this as smooth as possible, to have a good mounting surface on the heatsink when you actually put the heatsink back on. All right, so now let's get some Q-tips and some isopropyl. So we got our isopropyl, and let's go ahead and clean this up. That's looking really good, actually. So I think that's going to work out really well. And I'll give you guys a close-up of this here. But let me get it under the magnifying glass. There's a couple little spots I want to get. And there we go. That's the first CPU. Let me make sure you guys can actually see that. It may look a little rough, but that is actually smooth. On the camera you can actually see that it is kind of mirrory. I know some people, like I said, like to polish them. To be honest with you, I'm not too worried about that. It's going in my personal machine. It's not being used by anybody else, so therefore for me that is good. So I'm going to do the other one off camera, and I will come back and show you some benchmarks. All right, guys, just got finished doing the delidding, so now we're going to go ahead and run some benchmarks on my old processor. Right now, as you can see, we're running a Intel Xeon 5645, and I'm replacing it going to a 5675. So that's what we're looking at right now. So hopefully we'll be able to get some really good benchmarks once I get the new CPUs in. So let's go ahead and run the CPU benchmark. All right, guys, there's the benchmark for the old CPUs, which this is like I said, it's a 2.4 gigahertz model. So this is the Intel Xeon E5645, 2 processor, 12 core, 24 threads, and it's 2.4 gigahertz. So now we are going to go ahead and run Cinebench. So let me go ahead and pull this off to the side. I don't want to lose it yet. And we're going to run Cinebench. So I already got it open. Actually, I should reopen it because it doesn't like to. Yes, we're going to quit. All right, so we're going to open back up Cinebench. And we're going to rerun it again. So I'm going to hit the run button and we'll see what we get on here. All right, guys, there we go. On this time, we got a 2407, which is a little bit higher than the equivalent 2.4 gigahertz Intel Xeon CPU. I mean, that's what they have on here. It's a little bit better, but I hope to be a whole lot better once we get these new CPUs in. So when we come back, I'll have the tray out and I'll be disassembling the heat sinks, and we'll show you how those are going to go in. See you in a few. Okay, guys, I'm back, and we're going to go ahead and put these two CPUs in here. But first, I have to disassemble my tray here. So it's a dual CPU tray. So we'll go ahead and get that started here. So this is ready to go back in. So I will put this back in and then we'll run some tests. Okay, guys, we're back powered up. So everything looked like it went good. It powered up, no problem. Right now it's running at about 38 degrees Celsius. I do have the lid off of it, so it's probably gonna run a little bit more. I don't know, we'll see. I probably have to do a PRAM reset too, who knows. Let's go to about this Mac. And yes, we are running 2 times 3.06 gigahertz 6 core Intel Xeons. And we'll go to system report. And we're running 3.06, 16 gigabytes of memory. So yeah, we're working pretty good here. All right, so to remind everybody what we had last time, here is the Geekbench score that we ran before. So we'll put that over here in the corner. And we're going to run Geekbench again. just to see what we get now with the 3.06 now, from a 2.4 to a 3.06. So let's go ahead and run that. And there we go. Look at that. I went from 2307 single core to 2574 single core. Went from 19492 to 23456. That's a pretty significant increase, if you ask me. That's about 4,000 on that. So that's the Geekbench score. So now let's go take a look at Cinebench. So to remind everybody, this is our Cinebench score from earlier, 2,407 points. So let's run Cinebench again, and let's just see what we get. And there we go. That one's 2,966, so another 400 points roughly. So if you look close here, you can see this is my old score here, 2407, right here. And now I'm up here to 2966. So yeah, that's a big improvement. So guys, yeah, that I think this is going to work out good. Saturday I will be getting new memory in. I'll be getting 32 gigabytes of memory, and I will be installing that. And right now I'm running a 1066 memory, so this will be 1333 memory, so it's going to be faster memory. So I'm slowly, steadily improving this thing. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you'll check out my next one. Catch you later. Have a good one.
Delid.